So, can anybody remember how we create 1-point perspective? Shout out the steps that you can think of. All right. Draw a horizon. Good first step.
Add 1 point.
Add 1 point. Wherever?
Anywhere you want.
Where you want on that horizon line, okay? And so then,
Draw a box anywhere.
let's say we draw a box. Anywhere works.
Now connect the corners to the 1 point.
Oh, that was well put. Connect the corners to that. And then from there, draw another box back here that basically matches up with our... All right. So you got your basic transparent box here. All right, so I passed around that Kleenex box. All right. And some of you were faithful enough to actually try it out. Okay, so you got this right here. What happens if you've got this box in front of you, you're looking at the bottom side, you can see these two planes receding off into the distance, and eventually it'll touch that point on the horizon line, right? What happens if you take that box and you begin to turn it? It no longer works that way, does it? Right, not unless you have a second point. Okay, so if you take this box and you look at these planes right here, they will go off into the distance towards some point. These ones right here will head off into another direction entirely. So that's why we have to have 2-point perspective. Okay, so I'm going to show you basically how to do 2-point perspective in Illustrator. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started in a new Illustrator document, and I'll show you how to start the project. Make sure that you always go back to the website and review the assignments before you turn them in, because I don't always cover every single little detail. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start with a print document in horizontal orientation, and I'll go ahead and create. Okay. Huh? 8.5 by 11? Yeah, that's fine. That's a letter-sized document. And first thing I'm going to need is my rulers, because I need to make a guide on the page. So if I hold down Control-R, bring up my rulers, then I can click on my horizontal ruler and drag onto the page. Doesn't really matter where you put it. Now, you remember anything specific about the horizon line? Is there anything special about that horizon line that you can think of? It's flat. That's not what I was looking for, but it is flat. I hope it's flat. All right. That line represents your eye level, no matter where you are. So if you're standing up on a ladder, that's your eye level. If you're down on the ground, that's your eye level. It doesn't really matter where you're located, but this is eye level. Okay, so I can see that my guides are not locked. I can grab that and move it, and I don't want it to move. So I'm going to come up here to my View menu, go down to Guides, and I'm going to lock Guides. And I also want to turn off my Smart Guides because they drive me crazy. You can turn those off. Okay. So let us just pick a couple of points on that horizon line. I'm going to go to my rectangle tool, mash down on it, and then grab the ellipse tool. These are going to be my 2 points. I can go just about anywhere I want to on there, and I'm going to click and drag and hold down Alt while I do it, which will size it from the center point. And if I hold Shift, it sizes it as a circle. Constrains those proportions. Okay, so I don't have a stroke on that, so I'm going to go ahead and just give myself a stroke color. There we go. I was hoping for a brighter red. Doesn't really matter. Okay, and now I'm going to go ahead and make another point on here, but I will just do that by dragging my circle here and then holding down Option and Shift. Once I start the drag, I hold down Option and Shift, I get a second point. Okay. So there we go. Now remember, there's two views in Illustrator. There's preview mode, which is what I'm using right now. I can see colors in preview mode. And if I want to see the underlying vector shapes, I can hold down Control and hit Y, and I can see my actual center points here. All right, so these are the vector shapes that make up the preview mode in the other screen. So I can toggle back and forth so I can see my vector shapes, or my center points. Okay, so in this case, I cannot just draw a rectangular shape. Okay, one-point perspective doesn't allow for that. All right, it works in, did I say one or two-point perspective? Two-point perspective does not allow for this kind of thing. One-point perspective, you just draw a shape and you're good to start, but it doesn't work that way in two-point perspective. What I have to decide is, where do I want the top corner? Okay, wherever that is, that's where I'm going to draw my first line to. So I'm using my line tool now, and I'm drawing from my top corner to the center point of my circle. There we go. So that's this is going to be my top corner. Bam. Okay. So I could, if I wanted to be effective and efficient, is go ahead and create my next line to that same spot. So now this is the top corner of my box. If you were holding up this Kleenex box like so, this would be it right here. It's my top corner. All right. Okay. And now we can draw a line. I'm going to go ahead and Shift select all to deselect. We can draw a line from this top corner. It's got to be right on the money. And draw a line straight down. This is going to be the front edge of that box. And however long that front edge is, this right here will be one of the corners of the box. Okay, so I'm going to Shift select A. So I've got my shape beginning to develop. Now I can go from here to here. So you see one plane beginning to develop as it recedes off into infinity. And then I'm going to go ahead and make another plane that fades off into infinity. So this is getting pretty well developed pretty quickly. Okay, so can you see how the edges the sides of the box are beginning to develop here? Okay, let's now decide just how deep we want these sides to go. So anywhere I put on here a line going straight down on one side determines its depth in one direction. Okay, am I going too fast? We good? Going too fast, anybody? All right. So let's say I want to make this one deeper. I'm going to make this side deeper, so I'm going to drag a line from that line to that line right there. So that's roughly the shape of a Kleenex box. Okay, so from here, it's just a question of throwing lines into place. Okay, from this back edge, this is going to be our bottom right corner. I'm going to click and drag from here all the way to this point. Okay. I'm going to click and drag from here. And where's it going to go? Where do you think? The other side. That's exactly right. So now, can you see the box developing? So we can see the bottom of the box right there. That's that shape right there. Okay, and if this were a glass box, we would be able to see that back shape beginning to take place, beginning to develop. I can go from this top point to here. Okay. Last thing that we're missing is the very back corner of the box. And if I've done my work properly, when I drag a vertical line down from that intersection, it should meet exactly at that intersection of those two lines. So can you see the transparent box? Okay. Okay. So now it's a question of just deleting some of these lines in here. I'll go ahead and, oh, this one isn't long enough. Whoops. This one isn't long enough, so I'll go ahead and drag it down, holding shift while I do that. Holding shift constrains the angle of those lines, so it's handy to know that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and select these lines that I want to work with, and I'm going to use the eraser tool. I'm going to click and drag from that corner. Get rid of just what you don't need and leave the rest. Okay, come over here, select those lines that I don't need. And there we go. We got our transparent box right there. Not too shabby. Okay. Yes. Okay. I'll come over and help you in a minute, okay, Mike? What I do want to show before I stop this video is putting the shapes in here. All right, so putting the shapes in just like the one-point perspective, and I'm going to go ahead and go to my layers panel. I want to lock this layer because this is going to be my template layer, and I'm going to create a new layer on top of it, and I basically want to create shapes that would be the planes of the box. So I'm creating a rectangle shape here. I'll just go ahead and fill that for a moment with a color. Doesn't really matter what color that is. Create a shape here. Okay, so these are the two back edges of the box, and I want to make sure that these points meet each other. Okay. I've got the top edge of the box, the top plane. Okay, so there's going to be six shapes, a total of 6 shapes, because a box has 6 sides. Okay, once I've got these in place, I'm just going to go ahead and hide them for a moment. So if I go up to the Object menu, Hide, Selection, and I want to make sure that I get the shapes in here that I didn't get before because they were being covered up. So I've got this back shape, I've got this back shape, I've got this one. Now I'm going to get the shapes in front. Got that shape. Okay, and then I've got the very bottom of the box here. Okay, so got one side of the box, another side of the box, and the very bottom. Okay, what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to go ahead and go and show all. But we're not going to see anything because those shapes are behind it. I'll go ahead and for the sake of this exercise, change the transparency of it so we can see through it. transparency. That's my transparency panel. If you forget where it is, it can be found under the window menu. And hit 50%. Okay, so now I can begin working with my, my gradient tool. I'm going to go ahead and pretend for a moment as though the light were coming straight down on top of this. All right, so in fact, my, the top edge of my box, I wouldn't be able to see. Now I want to show you a trick. Since we have these shapes right here being completely covered over by this, there's a trick to get at that shape back there. All right, if you hold down the control key and click on that shape, I will get that top object. If I continue holding down the control key and click on that shape, I'll get the one behind it. So that's one way to get a hold of things without hiding a bunch of stuff. All right, really handy to use. Okay, so I'll go ahead and pretend my fill is going to be really light because the light is blasting down on it. I'll say it's that color right there. Okay, the rest of these sides are going to be a bit darker, but I'm going to go ahead and use a gradient. All right, so if I select this layer right here, and I hold down Control and click on it once, twice, I can get a hold of this one. Okay, I'm going to go to the gradient panel. Oh, come on, I'll take it up here. Go ahead and say linear gradient, and I'm going to change my color there. Is that close? All right, I'll call it close. All right, drag from here to here. Nope, the other way. Okay, getting down. I don't think I've got my color very close to what's here. I'm just going to go ahead and add this to my color swatches so that I can use it. All right, so if you've made up a color, I'm not sure where this color is, and you want to reuse it, I'll show you how to do that. Go to Window, Swatches, and now just drag that color over. Is that one right there? Is that the same color? It might be. All right, now I can go back to my gradient here. I'm going to change that color to that one right there. There we go. Okay, I'm going to select, hold down Control, click on that twice so I can get this background shape. Change my linear gradient. And then change the direction of it. Ah, I always get that wrong. There we go. Okay. Now I can go ahead and select this one. I don't need to hit Control just to select that one. I can just select it. Apply my linear gradient to it. That way. Do the same thing. Linear gradient. Now this bottom shape, I'm not going to put a gradient on it. I just want it to be darker. Okay, so if I double click on the color picker here, it'll give me my color and I can just drag it down towards the bottom there. Okay, did I leave anybody in the dust? I go too fast for that. Mike, I know, I'm coming back to you. Okay. So everybody else? Good? Okay. All right, so shadows, same way. Can you guess? You guess how you would do a shadow on this if the light were coming straight down?
Near the bottom square?
You could. You could do that. All right, so if I made a selection of this and brought it down, it looks a little funny, doesn't it? Okay?
Yeah.
So the Poe man's way of doing this is to make a duplicate of this, and then you use the transform to, I'm looking for reflect, across a horizontal axis and hit OK. It looks not bad. It's not terrible. However, there's a better way. There's a more precise way, I should say. Okay, so as before, what I could do is I could grab a guide here and throw it along my vertical edges. So right there, and right there. Okay. Now I can create lines that go to my vanishing points. Oh, and I forgot one. Line back here. Guide back here. Okay. All right. So from here, I can go to my vanishing point from here. This is just creating another. This is just creating another plane using two-point perspective. It's exactly the same process. Okay. Yeah. All right. So then my pen tool. I'm going to go ahead and just lock these for a moment. Object lock selection. Go ahead and fill that with gray. Okay. So then I can unlock those and just go ahead and get rid of them because I won't be using those again. Okay, so I'm using Control semicolon to get rid of my guides here so you can see what that actually should look like. So that's pretty realistic, yeah? Yeah, okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and sign off here.